Grandpa stole his first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
And welcome, Genies, to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. Well, today we got a couple of great guests, as always. Nathan Dylan Goodwin will be on with us from over in England. He's written a new book. This is the guy who created the genealogical detective thriller genre, and he is the master of it. And this is his first book that he's written that takes place in the United States with an investigation of cold case murders that took place in the 1980s on the East Coast and people trying to solve it using DNA in Salt Lake City, Utah. So we're going to talk to Nathan about how he comes up with his ideas and what this new book is about. You're going to want to hear all about that coming up in about 10 minutes. And then later in the show, Daniel Horowitz is here. He's a genealogical expert from MyHeritage.com. He's going to be talking about deep nostalgia. Of course, you've seen how you can now animate your still photographs and make them come alive. Daniel will explain exactly how this came to be, what the system, the process is to make these pictures, and what we might expect down the line with these photographs. So that's all coming up. Hey, if you haven't signed up for our weekly Genie newsletter yet, you can do so by going to extremegenes.com or our Facebook page. You get a blog from me each week. It's absolutely free, along with links to past and present shows and links to stories that you'll be fascinated by as a genealogist. And speaking of which, here is David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org in Boston. How are you, David?
I am doing grand. How about yourself?
I am fantastic. Thank you very much. Making discoveries. In fact, just 15 minutes before we talked, I got a will from England that was sent over that was very helpful for me in my research. So what do you got for us today in Family Histoire News?
Well, I do want to add, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Well, I want to start off by wishing a special 100th birthday to a World War II veteran, Lieutenant Colonel William Benelli, who is turning 100 years old. And for that occasion, he's also getting his COVID-19 vaccination.
How cool is that?
It really is, and I'll tell you, so many World War II veterans are making that 100th birthday mark. In fact, your good friend from Pearl Harbor that we've had on the show, he's going to be turning 100 this year as well.
Yeah, Lou Conter in September.
Yeah, and well, William Benelli, he flew 30 missions through Nazi Germany and Italy and is celebrating his 100th birthday. And like I say, it's great news to hear we have so many of these vets hitting the 100th birthday mark this year and in the coming years. Well, you know, I want to peel back the pages of time just a little bit, and this is not good news. There is talk in Greensboro, North Carolina, that a site of a historic Revolutionary War cemetery may be in peril. Roughly a 3.6-acre lot on Ballinger Road in Greensboro is now in peril because they are planning to build a medical facility on it. This lot, Fish, apparently is where 12 Revolutionary War soldiers are known historically to be buried. Of course, there's no gravestones. It was just known to be a site where they buried them 200-plus years ago. As a member of the SAR, I can tell you it angers me to think that they would even put any threat on a cemetery site, let alone a site of a cemetery of Revolutionary War veterans. So I hope that archaeologists are on hand meticulously looking for any remains if this site cannot be preserved.
Right.
Really sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, in the past decade or so, we heard about Jamestown Fortress being located. Historic Jamestown dating back to 1607. The site, originally thought lost by the James River, was found by the archaeologist William Kelso. Well, exciting news comes from Maryland. The historic St. Mary's City has been located where St. Mary's Fort, dating back to 1634, has now been located. And it would be the fourth oldest English colony in North America.
Fascinating.
And Maryland's oldest English settlement. So archaeologists are finding all sorts of things, pottery and things that are associated with it. But what the archaeologists initially have found, Fish, are the palisades, the fortress walls that surround St. Mary's Fort. And, of course, that's where the settlement first started up in 1634.
Isn't that incredible? That's got to be a real thrill for these people to go do a dig and make a find like that.
Well, I hope that some of our listeners are actually descendants of those that lived in Maryland that long ago.
Yeah.
And who knows, they might find something archaeologically relevant to your family's home.
Sure.
And I love digging into history with you, but I'll tell you, the one article that you shared with me earlier, it's great. It's like the top 11 things found in parking lots and associated other places you wouldn't expect to find history.
Yes.
And I think the corpse of Richard III truly is the one that takes the cake.
The number one thing, imagine how many people actually parked on top of King Richard III over in England all those years ago, and then they found him. And then you look at this list. We've talked over the course of the history of Extreme Genes, which is now almost 8 years. How many times have we heard about somebody's digging up a parking lot, or they call it a car park overseas, and they find something historical under it? So here's a list of 11 things, and we should go through a few of them.
The next one in the line is the bunker of Adolf Hitler. And, of course, recently, a black church in colonial Williamsburg, they found basically there's a cemetery that's been under a parking lot. And I hate to say it, it's a parking lot that I've parked in Williamsburg. One I didn't know about in a parking lot, my own ancestor, St. Margaret of Scotland, who brought Christianity to Scotland so long ago, she used to pray in a cave, and apparently that cave is accessible below a parking lot in Dunfermline, Scotland.
Isn't that something?
There's a Native American shell mound that was found, and over 100 burials were removed, and that dated back 5,700 years.
Well, we got Henry VIII's chapel, the one where he kind of figured out, do I get rid of my wives or do I not? And that was under a parking lot.
You just never know when you park your car what history you're parked above.
Yeah.
Well, that's about all I have from Beantown this week. Talk to you on the second half of the show when we talk about Ask Us Anything, right?
Exactly. We'll talk to you then, David. And coming up next, we're going to talk to Nathan Dylan Goodwin over in England about his new book. It covers a cold case mystery in the United States. You'll want to hear all about it coming up next in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Anytime is a great time to learn more about your family. Did you miss Roots Tech Connect this year? It's not too late to experience Roots Tech classes, keynotes, and how-to content. Just visit rootstech.org to see what you missed and to experience Roots Tech Connect on your own timetable. Select inspiring and insightful messages that will help you in your pursuit to connect with and share your family story in new ways. You can then use the free resources found at FamilySearch.org or the Family Search Family Tree app to have a deeper personal experience getting to know your family, past and present. Connecting with family and learning about your ancestors provides healing, peace, and a sense of belonging. And it's easy to share what you learn with others to help and inspire them as well. Visit rootstech.org for some inspiration or visit FamilySearch.org to continue on your journey of family discovery today.
At Legacy Tree Genealogists, we provide families like yours with the stories of your ancestors, a legacy that will be cherished for generations to come. Legacy Tree Genealogists provides genealogy research for clients worldwide, helping them discover their roots and personal history through records, narratives, and DNA analysis. And when your research requires access to on-site archives in the countries your ancestors lived, Legacy Tree Genealogists has researchers in more than 100 countries around the globe who know the local language and how to get their hands on the records you need. Legacy Tree Genealogists is the recommended research firm of genealogy industry leaders worldwide, including MyHeritage, 23andMe, and more. Check out what our clients have to say. Absolutely the best. They communicated through the entire process, and my report arrived on time. The story of my family with supporting documents was very fulfilling. Tom G. Google review. Don't wait any longer. Request your free quote today at legacytree.com. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries.
Well, Genies, what a time we're all going through right now. And with all this time on our hands, you probably agree the best lemonade we can make out of this is to sharpen our genie axes and learn how to extend our family trees, gather more photos and documents, and discover those remarkable family stories our descendants can benefit from for generations. Well, I have more time now, too, and I want to help you learn what you need to know. That's why I've created a new Facebook group, Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. I'm so pleased that so many of you have already signed up and are helping us to create a supportive community of family history researchers. On this page, we can brainstorm and share ideas on how to tear down those brick walls that we all have. So feel free to join us. The Facebook page again is Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. Feel at home with others who live in our genie world and want to make the most of this unique time. Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. Join us. All right, my next guest is Nathan Dylan Goodwin. He is an author based in Great Britain. And Nathan, it's great to have you back on because you have come up now with an American genealogy-based novel. Never seen this out of you before.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Yes, it's the first one set in America with just American characters too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had Morton, one of your primary characters in your British series, come to the United States at one point looking for his father, but this is the first time you've had a whole new set of characters. And I will tell you that I devoured this thing in 2 days, and it's called, for everybody's benefit, The Chester Creek Murders. And if you haven't read any of Nathan Dylan Goodwin's books in the past, you will find, first of all, you can learn a lot about family history research and genealogy research because you use real techniques and actually, in many cases, real names.
Yes, it's very important to me to do that. Since writing the Morton Farrier books, I've always really wanted to get that correct. I'm very aware that lots of genealogists read the books, and so I want it to be real for them and to be authentic. And so if I say something is online in that location, then that's where it really is. Or if you have to go to a library to go and look at that document, then that's what you really have to do. It's really been really important to me. And lots of people have said over the years that they've found the books really helpful. So yes, they've enjoyed them as a piece of fiction, but I've had people say, you've helped me find my great-grandfather or, various things and documents and records that they didn't know existed. So it's really important to me that I get that genealogy correct.
Yeah, some of these records are pretty obscure, aren't they?
Yes. But I quite like using those ones because It's very easy to default to the census and vital records. And I think, if you can kind of put some of these other slightly obscure ones in, then it's quite good just to liven things up. And also, like I say, people could think, oh, I didn't know that existed. I might try that one,
Well, this new book, The Chester Creek Murders, is based in Salt Lake City, Utah, at least as far as the investigation goes. And the murders themselves took place in Pennsylvania. We'll just say, Nathan, that this is a pretty bad dude, this killer. And it was terrible things that happened there. And if the violence causes you problems, just skip over the details of that stuff and move on to the investigation. And what's really interesting about this, I think, is that this really helps people to understand the process that genetic genealogists go through to solve a cold case crime. And you've actually consulted with some of these investigators who have done just this.
Yeah, so basically in Britain, we don't do the investigative genetic genealogy. So law enforcement can't send off DNA or have access to databases like this. It's completely illegal. So just after the Golden State Killer was caught, I thought I want to write something in this vein because it's not been done before. So I knew I had to set it, therefore, in America. And I knew if I was going to do this, I needed to really get it right. And so I spoke to various detectives in America, in different parts of America, who gave me advice. But I also spoke to Barbara Ray Venter, who was one of the genealogists who helped crack the Golden State Killer. And so she gave me lots of information about the process. And so, yeah, that's as accurate as it pretty well is, really.
Well, and I think any experienced genealogist wouldn't necessarily find something new in the sources that you discuss here, but they might in terms of the overall process and making sure they got it right. And of course, we're dealing with that in genealogy every day. We have to make sure that our conclusions are correct. You want to test your theory, right? If you find the person you think is your ancestor, you want to prove that maybe you were wrong.
Yes.
Not only that, you cover the legalities of what you're dealing with. I mean, I think it's really fascinating for people to understand exactly how these cold cases are solved.
Yeah, thank you. I think lots of people don't fully understand the processes, and it is a very divisive thing for the genealogical community at the moment. I think, with particularly the privacy issues, there are some who are very staunchly, no, I've uploaded my DNA to this website because I want to do family history, and that's that. I don't want to help catch killers and identify remains. That's not what I'm doing it for. And then there are others who are very much pro that use of DNA. And so it's a very new territory, really, for us to navigate. And I think it's not been completely ironed out yet, all of the ethical issues there. And so I tried to put that into the book as well, trying to discuss that slightly.
So this takes place, at least as far as the investigation goes, right after Roots Tech last year. And of course, we were all together at the Salt Palace Convention Center in Salt Lake City, Utah at that time. And from what I'm gathering here and what I'm reading, I sense that you went around Salt Lake City after the conference was over to scout out places to put into your book. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. Yeah. In fact, it was the last 2 years. So last February, March, and the year before was actually when I started to have the idea. And so for those 2 periods of time while I was out in Salt Lake City for Roots Tech, I was location hunting. So I was walking around the main city streets, kind of looking, well, where could their building be that they're based? And I found the Cairns building, and I thought, this is good. It's on Main Street. It's got a bit of history behind it. Mm-hmm. And so I just went inside, and the security guard was kind of looking at me a bit strangely because I was aimlessly wandering around taking photos and things. But yes, and it meant going into all sorts of lovely cafes and restaurants. And last year I went skiing up at Park City as well, purely because I had to, write about it.
Yes, of course. Well, not that way you can write it off, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's a tax expense.
Exactly. It was completely. It wasn't just for enjoyment at all. It was for research.
Absolutely, just for research. By the way, did you go over to Pennsylvania and start to research the area in Delaware County?
I planned to. Basically, I was due to attend a wedding nearby. And so I thought, well, while I'm going over there, that would be a good place to set the murder scenes. And so I started to then look before I went to this wedding and look at the locations and came up with them, intending then to visit them, and then didn't go to the wedding. So I was kind of like, okay, well, I've picked the locations. I've done lots of work, as much as I can do, at home on the computer. And so I kept that location without actually visiting it.
Do you use Google Street View for some of your work?
Oh, yes, all the time. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Otherwise, I think it's very difficult to just look at a map and go, oh, that place will do, So, yeah, I completely go into the Street View and look around and try to get a feel, particularly when they've got a good date range on the Street View, so you can see how it's changed or not, over the years, to get a really good sense of what's going on there. So I did do research into the location, but just didn't actually get there.
So have you gotten any feedback from some cold case researchers on the book?
I haven't yet. I've sent it to Barbara Ray Venter, and I've sent it to the detectives who helped me. And one of the detectives has read it and said he just thought it was brilliant and amazing and very good. But I haven't had feedback yet from people who actually do it. So I'm waiting on that.
Well, I'm thinking somewhere down the line that this might be required reading for a lot of detectives around the country who really don't understand the process. Could be a real good education for them. Exactly how it works.
And entertaining, yeah.
Yeah, and entertaining at the same time, which I think would be fantastic. So in this particular story, you've really got kind of 2 storylines going. The Chester Creek murders, which, okay, I'll reveal it. Yes, they do catch him at the end. But there is another story that's developing here, and it just kind of ends without touching it. So I'm sensing that you're setting up a follow-up.
Yes, yeah. Basically, I've planned it as a series, but certainly lots of the things that were raised in this book, yes, there'll be another one that's set pretty well straight after that book finishes. So, yeah, that'll be coming soon, yes.
Excellent. Well, that's great. So you got another series. So you got Morton. Now you've got this. I mean, do you have any time for anything else? Do you do your own research on your own family?
I do, yes. I probably don't give it quite as much time as I would like to, but yes, I'm currently looking into my ancestors that lived on St Helena, the little British island in the Atlantic off the west coast of Africa. It's very tempting when I'm down in my cabin writing, and I'm obviously using Ancestry and MyHeritage and Find My Parcel and Family Search and all the rest of it. It's very tempting to think, I'll just do a little bit on my own.
Yeah, but you know that's a rabbit hole.
It is totally a rabbit hole, yes. And one little thing leads to another little thing, and then suddenly the day's gone and I haven't actually done any writing. So I try to be disciplined and do my writing. But yeah, I'm always doing my own family tree as well.
Have you ever based anything in any of your books after any of your own ancestors?
Not directly, but I get lots of ideas and snippets and records and documents from that. And the Spyglass file, the fifth Morton book, that was very loosely based on my grandmother's story of the illegitimate child in the Second World War. But that's kind of as close as I've come, really. I think probably because most of my ancestors are ag labs from the south of England, so they haven't led a very exciting life so far.
You haven't found any spies or any military heroes?
No, not so far. That's why these St Helena ancestors are so interesting. It's like, wow, I've got ancestors that came from this tiny little island owned by the East India Company, and so this is very exciting for my family. So
do you plan to continue writing books based on genealogical research, or do you think there's something else waiting inside of you to be expressed?
That's a really good question. Down my cabin, I've got a whiteboard and I've got loads and loads and loads of ideas on there. I really love doing the genealogical crime fiction. I really love it. So I can't see an end coming anytime soon for those books, but I probably will try and put other things in between, if you like. But actually, most of the ideas that I tend to be coming up with at the moment have some kind of family history or historical or DNA links to them. So, yeah, I think that's what I'll do, is probably intersperse these other projects with Morton and the Maddie series as well.
Interesting. All right. So for people who want to get the Chester Creek Murders book from Nathan Dylan Goodwin, where can they go?
So the easiest place is probably from Amazon, but you can order it from any bookshop in America like Barnes & Noble, etc. You can go to my website, which is nathandylangoodwin.com. There's all the links on there, and you can get them from Apple and Google Play, Kobo, and also signed copies from my website. So pretty well anywhere. And it's also it's in Kindle and paperback, and the audiobook is almost finished in production, so that won't be long.
Well, he is the world's supreme genealogical historical fiction writer, Nathan Dylan Goodwin. Hey, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And coming up next, how did MyHeritage make your old pictures move and come to life? Find out in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show. Back at it on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio Roots Sleuth. And of course, at Roots Tech Connect, I can't think of anything that took over the entire online conference more than this shocking new tool to play with your photographs that was put out on myheritage.com. Hey, I've got Daniel Horowitz on the line. He's one of the genealogical experts there at MyHeritage. And Daniel, I can't tell you the reaction from so many people who I showed this to. And of course, my reaction initially, people fall off their chairs over this new tool that converts photographs into real short little videos where they actually move around.
Yes, Scott. Thank you very much for the invitation. And yes, this is just one of the many tools MyHeritage has in the toolbox. But definitely being able to see our ancestors moving and smiling and actually coming back to life, it is really impressive, and it is amazing, all the people around the world.
Now, each of the last few Roots Techs, you've released something to do with photographs. You've got colorizing, you've got sharpening. I got to tell you, when this came out, I was like mad at myself because it never crossed my mind that this is something you could do with a photograph, and I kind of think of myself as a creative person. But when I first saw my great-grandfather in 1890 looking at me, smiling, looking left, right, blinking, I just about fell over. It's unbelievable. And I've even got a couple of photos that date back to the 1850s. To actually see them moving and living and breathing is absolutely astonishing.
Well, the technology was there, and it was applied to a lot of things for quite a long time. What I personally think is the greatness of the whole idea is just thinking to apply this technology to old photos, to your family ancestor photos, and being able to put the human touch on it. And that is actually also why we decided to call it deep nostalgia, because the people mostly have the nostalgia to see their ancestors moving and smiling. And MyHeritage now fulfill that desire.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if you're looking for it, it is a free tool. It's on myheritage.com. You go to the Family Tree tab from the home page, and in the little drop down there, it'll just say Animate Photos, New, and that's where you do it. You just upload your digitized photograph, push a button, and it's automatic. And what I like about it too, Daniel, is I realize, and I'm sure you do too, that there are some pictures where certain versions of this animation don't work. They make the people look a little bit different, right? Funny teeth or a funny expression. But there are 10 different variations of this. So for some of mine, I went through and found, wow, I could actually use 8 of them that would be different, that would work, and that would keep their personality and keep the integrity of the original photograph. And there are some where I went through and only like 2 worked, where it worked that way.
Well, there is a lot of things that are being taken care here, and you need to take in account the position of the head and the lighting of the picture, and if you have like a smile or not, if the eyes are open, if you have glasses. And the technology at the beginning scans this image and first of all, enhance it, because we don't rely on the quality of the image that you're uploading. So by applying automatically the enhancement technology, we guarantee that the final product, the movie that we're creating, is going to be a high quality video. And then we, depending, again, if the person is smiling, if you have a beard or a mustache, then we decide what driver to use and to put it as a default driver.
Yes.
And you can have, as you said, currently up to 10 different drivers, and you can test all of them. And definitely ones will be better than the others. And most of the time, I have to admit, the default is actually the best one, but I will invite everybody to try the others, because sometimes the others are also good drivers. And we're keeping an eye very close on that, because yes, for some images would look a little bit strange. I have seen people moving and the beard just stay in place because the technology doesn't catch that the beard is there, and we focus only on the very round faces. But most of them are very good, and then you can download them and share them with everybody else.
Yeah, that's what I like about it, too. And I have shared this with some of my correspondents in family history, distant cousins. One of them wrote back, "What kind of evil have you brought upon us? I thought he was ready to burn me at the stake."
Well, I can definitely tell you that people have lost hours of sleep playing with this technology. And one of the other things that I would like to point out, and I think it's actually great from this technology, is that the drivers are actually recorded from human beings. In fact, he's one of our employees that we selected as being the model. So it's not just artificial intelligence applied to that. So it's actually human movements and human expressions being applied to the image or to the photo to reproduce whatever the real person is doing.
So do you anticipate down the line you'll actually come up with more than 10 versions of this?
Come on, Scott. You want me to get fired if I tell you yes?
This is my job. His lips are sealed. Oh, my goodness. So,
by the way,
yes.
Scott, if you're talking about lip seals, same as the Ancestors movie animations, and that is totally on purpose. And we have received some comments from users that they would like to see their ancestors talking or singing, and totally on purpose. MyHeritage has not permitted the drivers to move the mouth, because we don't want to fall onto the deep fake technology or usage of this technology. We want to keep this into the family history scope and we just want to bring your ancestors back to life.
Well, and I think you've really done that. It was really interesting to see Jimmy Kimmel actually had it on his talk show here in the United States not too long ago and had fun with his co-host and putting him up there with deep nostalgia, although he's still breathing.
Well, yes, we suggest and we encourage people to use only photos of dead relatives. And if they plan to do this on living individuals, to ask their permission before they do that. And you can read that MyHeritage tries always to encourage people to do the right thing and the legal thing always, of course. But yeah, some people just play with the images of living individuals. I think also as a genealogist, not only to fulfill the needs for the genealogy world, but to try to bring others into this family history world and to show them that it's not just an issue of building family trees or searching records in archives, that family history can be preserved and can be fun and can appeal to anybody. And the other consequence that I'm seeing more and more every day, the younger generations are opening their hearts and their mouth and their memories, and they are starting to tell the stories about those relatives that probably they will never come out if they will not see the image in the movement and with all those face animations.
It's very intriguing, and I lost an entire workday when it came out. I'm going to send a bill to MyHeritage. So he's Daniel Horowitz. He's one of the genealogical experts at MyHeritage.com, my good friend in Israel. And Daniel, thanks for your time, and thanks to the company for this great tool. What a lot of fun it is, and a lot more than that, it's a great hook for those who may not be in the field quite yet, but they will be.
My pleasure always.
And on the way after the break, it's Ask Us Anything, questions about a World War I British medal and how to figure out who it belonged to, and how do you get those family letters to add to your family history. Find out more coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes.
At Legacy Tree Genealogists, we provide families like yours with the stories of your ancestors, a legacy that will be cherished for generations to come. Legacy Tree Genealogists provides genealogy research for clients worldwide, helping them discover their roots and personal history through records, narratives, and DNA analysis. And when your research requires access to on-site archives in the countries your ancestors lived, Legacy Tree Genealogists has researchers in more than 100 countries around the globe who know the local language and how to get their hands on the records you need. Legacy Tree Genealogists is the recommended research firm of genealogy industry leaders worldwide, including MyHeritage, 23andMe, and more. Check out what our clients have to say. Absolutely the best. They communicated through the entire process, and my report arrived on time. The story of my family with supporting documents was very fulfilling. Tom G. Google review. Don't wait any longer. Request your free quote today at legacytree.com. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries.
Well, genies, what a time we're all going through right now. And with all this time on our hands, you probably agree the best lemonade we can make out of this is to sharpen our genie axes and learn how to extend our family trees, gather more photos and documents, and discover those remarkable family stories our descendants can benefit from for generations. Well, I have more time now, too, and I want to help you learn what you need to know. That's why I've created a new Facebook group, Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. I'm so pleased that so many of you have already signed up and are helping us to create a supportive community of family history researchers. On this page, we can brainstorm and share ideas on how to tear down those brick walls that we all have. So feel free to join us. The Facebook page again is Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. Feel at home with others who live in our genie world and want to make the most of this unique time. Genealogy and Family History Breakthrough Strategies. Join us. Anytime is a great time to learn more about your family. Did you miss Roots Tech Connect this year? It's not too late to experience Roots Tech classes, keynotes, and how-to content. Just visit rootstech.org to see what you missed and to experience Roots Tech Connect on your own timetable. Select inspiring and insightful messages that will help you in your pursuit to connect with and share your family story in new ways. You can then use the free resources found at FamilySearch.org or the Family Search Family Tree app to have a deeper personal experience getting to know your family, past and present. Connecting with family and learning about your ancestors provides healing, peace, and a sense of belonging. And it's easy to share what you learn with others to help and inspire them as well. Visit rootstech.org for some inspiration or visit FamilySearch.org to continue on your journey of family discovery today. All right, back for Ask Us Anything on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. Fisher here with David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. And David, we have a question here. It says, guys, I am a metal detectorist, and a few years ago I dug up a World War I British veterans medal. Ooh. And it has a number on it. Any place you know of that can tell me who this belonged to? Lance in Detroit. Good question, wow. Lance. David, you're the military guy around here. What do you know?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious where you found it. Well, military medals in the British Army were identified, which is very true. There are a variety of different medals, and the National Archives.gov.uk actually has British Army Medal Index cards, 1914 and 1920. You're going to be able to see, Lance, the different types of medals they have. There wasn't just one. There's one that's called the 1914 Star. That was issued for those that served early on in the war. Then there was a 1914, 1915 Star Medal. The British War Medal, which looks like a silver dollar with the king's face on it, or I should say his profile. There's the Victory Medal, and there's also one called the Silver War Badge, which is sort of like a brooch, if you will, with the center part cut out with the crown and the initials of the king. Now, all of these medals have a number assigned to them, and what you can find on the National Archives website is a way that you can search for the name of the person if that's on the medal. Some of the medals will have the name along the outer rim, like the silver one with George V's profile. You may get that. But on the medal, like the Silver War Badge, that's just going to have a number on it, not a name. So you can find out who received that medal without even having to know the name. So if you go onto that database, and it's a long URL, so the easiest way I can tell you, Lance, is go to nationalarchives.gov.uk, and then when you do a site search, search on British Army Medal Index cards, and you'll find it in a heartbeat.
Wow. That's really exciting. I mean, that's got to be really fun, and to create this little mystery when you dig it up. Who did this belong to? And how does a British World War I medal end up in Michigan? Well, maybe he didn't even dig it up in Michigan, for all we know. But
that's entirely true, but he could have been a veteran who came over and marched in a parade after the fact, or the kid played with it at a park. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really fun, too, when you make a discovery like that, whether it's pulling it out of the ground or you find something of interest, say, on eBay, the rabbit holes it takes you down as you start to research the history of that medal and the people who were involved in obtaining it and what they had to do to get it. And then all these other medals that are associated with the broader war. And there's so many of those things out there, and it's so much fun. Some of them, I would imagine, David, are quite pricey, yes?
They really are, and it depends on the precious metal that it's made out of. I mean, of course, silver is going to be more than just a regular bronze metal. But, I mean, there are some that were very limited medals that were given out. And when those are found, it's usually a tremendous find. A lot of the German medals from World War I, certain Iron Crosses are worth more than others because they're different ranks. So, but
the Blue Max, right, for instance?
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But it's hard to know who those were assigned to because they weren't numbered.
Yeah.
But it's truly fun to be able to research the medal, whether you find it on eBay or you find it in a parking lot.
Right.
Well, maybe a park.
Maybe a park or something like that. Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, too, and that is that if you can identify who this belonged to, wouldn't it be fun to find the family and return it to them? I mean, that could make a great final chapter in the history of your discovery. And
hint, hint, Lance, call us when you've done that.
Absolutely. It'd be a great story. So thank you so much for the question, Lance. And we will return once again in 3 minutes with another question on Ask Us Anything on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. All right, back for our final segment of Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show for this week. It's Ask Us Anything, and David Allen Lambert is back with me as we talk about question number 2 this week. And David, this is from Amy Leanne. She is in Huntsville, Alabama, and she says, Fisher and David, you often talk about troves of ancestral letters. What is your secret for finding them, and what do you do with them? I'm not quite sure what she means by what do we do with them, but let's go through this a little bit because I think ancestral letters are really, really important. Don't you, David?
I do, but I don't know. Do I want to reveal the secrets and how I'm finding them? Because how would if it's my cousin? Yeah, no, it's amazing the amount of things that are out there. Sometimes family members will reveal, oh, well, great Aunt Helen had this box of stuff. Are you interested in it? Without even asking the contents of the box, I say yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to be in them. I mean, when my wife's grandmother died, I went through what I thought was just a sock drawer, and there were the letters between her and her husband while they served in the U.S. Coast Guard in World War II, still tied up with the ribbons that she tied them up in 1945.
Yeah, isn't that fun? And this is an important thing to do, is network with your cousins. And I think the thing that happens is if you become the passionate genealogist in your family on all branches and your spouses and whatever, these are the things that actually just come to you because people will say, well, maybe Fisher will want them, that kind of thing. And so they just send you stuff. And often there are other things even other than letters in there. For instance, I have that shillelagh I picked up a couple of years ago from a third cousin, and he had it passed down from my great-grandfather's brother who had picked it up in Ireland. And it's great to have this 19th century shillelagh with this Fisher connection. But getting back to the letters, what do we do with them? Well, naturally, we keep them, we read them. I like to transcribe them because there's always a ton of information in there, and it's easier to transcribe because a lot of people, as time goes on, can't even read handwriting, old handwriting.
I know it's a lost art.
Yeah.
I always say train the next generation. They're probably getting some education in school, but they want that extra edge. Learn how to read cursive.
Yeah. We're not just about genealogy here. We're about the broader picture of family history and how it all ties to our relatives. So it's a lot of fun.
I was given a collection of letters for a family that I worked on the surname, Civil War letters from a veteran from Vermont. And he wrote beautifully and nice and easy to read. And in it, it talks about other soldiers. So you have to think of that fan approach, family, associates, and neighbors. Those letters may not relate to your family, but if you transcribe them and put them out there and share them online, you may be talking about somebody else's ancestor. In the community history that's in these letters, oh, I saw Joe Bolster from down the street. He was at the 27th Regiment. I mean, wait a minute, Joe Bolster's great-great-granddaughter has now found this by Google searching it because you put that letter online. So they're so valuable. You don't want to just sit on them. You want to publish them. You want to put them out there for the general populace to read.
And don't throw away the envelopes because there could be DNA on there that you might be able to turn into something great. So there are so many things. Oh, and you can display them as well, but you might want to display just copies so you don't see them fade over time. So great question. Good luck in your search for the letters. And, of course, if anybody has a question for Ask Us Anything, you can email us at askusanything@extremegenes.com. David, thank you so much for coming on. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you soon, my friend.
And thank you for joining us this week. Thanks to Nathan Dylan Goodwin, the author of a brand new book called The Chester Creek Murders, and to Daniel Horowitz from MyHeritage.com talking about their incredible deep nostalgia feature where they animate your stationary old photographs. How did they do it? If you missed any of the interview, you can catch it on iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, and ExtremeGenes.com. Talk to you next week. Thanks for joining us. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.